This is a Japanese version of the Super Nintendo. It's called the Super Famicom, and we're going to find out if we can use these in North America. That's today on Tech Guy Life. In the early 1980s, Atari had somehow managed to kill the entire video game industry. Check out the awesome documentary Atari Game Over. It's on a few streaming services like Prime and I think the Roku channel and Pluto if you want to know more, but that's an awesome documentary to check out. So when Nintendo brought out the Famicom in 1983, they didn't bring it to North America right away. It took them 2 years to figure out what to change to bring it to the North American market. And what did they change? The whole look of the system. This is what the Famicom in Japan looked like. And of course, everybody knows the Nintendo Entertainment System that came to North America. They made it look more like a VCR. It's video cassettes for you kids. And nowhere in the name was video game. It was the Nintendo Entertainment System. Jump ahead to 1991. Video games, they're thriving again in North America. And Nintendo releases its follow-up console, the Super Nintendo. And this is it. It looks again like a video game console. Video games weren't a dirty word anymore. So they didn't have to try to hide that this was a console. So why did North America get this boxy, squared off look when the rest of the world got this? In my opinion, this console design is much better looking. Everywhere but North America got this design. Europe got this design. Japan got this design. Everywhere got this design except for North America. So since this is an imported console from Japan, can we even use this here in North America? The first question is, of course, power. The Japanese power grid is only 100 volts, whereas North America is 120. The system here would generally hurt or possibly even kill the AC adapter that came with this unit. My assumption was that you could use the Super Nintendo North American power adapter with this, but no, you can't. The barrel jacks are a different size. I don't know if you can tell there. This is the Super Famicom barrel jack, and that is the SNES barrel jack. Two different sizes, two different connectors. Super Nintendo and the Super Famicom do use the same power on their adapters. Both are 10 volts, 850 milliamps, with the center post being negative. So you can get any adapter that matches those specs, and it will work as long as the barrel plug is the right size. It'll work here in North America. One thing that will work is a North American regular NES power supply. The NES power supply is 9 volts, 850 milliamps, but it still works. I don't know why they made this 10 volts. It doesn't seem to make any sense. Controllers are completely identical between the Famicom and the Super NES, except for logos and colors. So the Super Famicom has colored buttons, which match the colored logo, as opposed to the Super Nintendo, which are all like they're two different shades of purple. The biggest difference between the American and Japanese consoles is the cord length. These cords are super short on the Super Famicom controllers. And I think the Japanese idea is that you have long AV cables and the console sits with you, as opposed to the North American idea, which was the console sits at the television and the controller just comes to you. Both Japan and North America share the same video standards for their televisions, which is called NTSC. So because they share the same video standards, it means that the AV cable is completely identical. It is exactly the same in Japan as it is in North America. So whatever AV cable you have will work with this or work with this. Both of them have the standard Nintendo multi-out port and can use the same cables. Like we found out in one of my previous N64 videos, and I'll put a link up somewhere around here, Nintendo only made a difference in the cartridge shape to effectively region lock the consoles between North America and Japan. North American games don't fit in the slot of the Super Famicom because of the shape. They made these games more rectangle, whereas the Japanese games are rounded, like that. The Japanese cartridges can fit in the slot of the American Super Nintendo, but they won't go in because what they did was they put notches. See these notches here? There are notches on the cartridges that match up with indent plastic things inside the cartridge slot. You probably can't see it, but there's one right there, and then the other one is there. And that prevents this cartridge from actually engaging with the cartridge slot. There's an actual region lock chip that stops NTSC, which is the North American and Japanese video standards, from running on PAL systems, which is like Europe and the UK and vice versa. You need a mod chip to get around those issues. But we don't need to worry about that between these two consoles. If you're curious, here's a map showing the different regions that use different video standards, PAL, NTSC, and the third one called CCAM. So the North American console can be made region-free between Japan and North American games by simply just cutting out the plastic bits, which would allow this cartridge to go all the way into the cartridge slot. But the Super Famicom has a bigger problem in that the size of the cartridges are very different, and you actually can't get that in at all. This piece here on the Super Famicom is separate from the actual housing. And I thought, I wonder if someone has made a 3D printed version of this in order to get around the cartridge slot problem. I couldn't find anything, but if you know of any of them, put a link down below or share it in the comments, please, so that I can find this, because I would really love to find this piece that I could reprint and have a cartridge slot that accepts the North American cartridges. Because of course, this one doesn't have the notches, so this will just go right in. You can buy a new shell for both of these systems, but they're pretty expensive, and they're in the $60 Canadian range currently at the time of filming, in order to pick up a shell to replace the one that you have here, which will allow both cartridges to go in. The cost-effective solution that I have found is something that doesn't require changing the console at all, and it doesn't require any snipping or modifications, and that is this. This is simply an adapter that brings the cartridge slot above the console itself. So it has the shape to fit into a Super Famicom, but it also has the notches on the bottom, so it can go into either console. So it fits into there or into there. And what this lets you do is effectively put a North American game into a Super Famicom, or be able to put a Japanese game in the North American Super Nintendo. So these adapters cost about $30, $35 Canadian, and you can pick them up on AliExpress. So is this cheaper? Like getting a Super Famicom versus a Super Nintendo? Yes and no. When it comes to console-only listings, the Super Famicom is about $30 Canadian cheaper when it's just the console only compared to the Super NES. And that, of course, is going to be dependent on who's selling what on eBay at the time. So your mileage may vary. In terms of getting a full system, the Famicom can come in cheaper, but not by much. Most NES SNES systems were $110 to $150, whereas Super Famicom was kind of all over the place. Some listings were as low as $70, and they even came with a couple of games. So again, your mileage may vary. It depends on who's selling what. I was lucky enough to find this at a local yard sale for $40. And the funny backstory behind it is that week I had lost out on a Super Famicom on eBay for about $35. And I was a little bummed out about it because I I didn't actually bid. I just missed buying it. It was a buy it now. I had gotten an offer from the seller and someone else snagged it up before I did because, I saw it in the morning and then I had to work and blah, blah, blah. By the time the evening rolled around, it was gone. Come the weekend, I'm about to head out yard selling, and I said to myself that morning, wouldn't it be funny if I found a Super Famicom at a garage sale this weekend? The first yard sale I went to, this was sitting in a basket with a bunch of things, and I picked it up for $40. In fact, I think I spent $60 at that yard sale and got this, a Sega Genesis, a whole pile of a box of miscellaneous cables, which at the bottom of it had like 4 PS1 memory cards. It was just one of those insane, fun yard sale steal of the deals that you always hope you get. So when it comes to games, I was surprised to find things very similar to my N64 video. Japanese games are cheaper, even when you import them. So I picked a few up just to find out how things were. So the cartridge designs, I think, are much better on the Famicom. Like this, I love the rounded shape, and the labels are just, for some reason, they just look that much better than the North American ones. I don't know. It's just a personal preference of mine, but I think these look a lot better. And for a lot of games, there's very little Japanese actually in the game. So even on the labels, Super Mario Kart is written in English. It's also written in Japanese. At least I'm pretty sure that's what that is. I don't read Japanese. And when it comes to the gameplay, totally the same. Japanese Super Mario Kart. Okay, so very little Japanese. If you have any familiarity again with the game, you should be able to get through no problem. Oh, yeesh. Yeah, it's just as hard as the other one. Let's find out if I can do any better with the North American version. Let's just compare the two. So we'll also get a chance to test out our adapter. And there's our adapter is in. Cartridge on top. Turn it on. And there is North American Mario Kart on a Japanese console. So it totally works. Yep, I suck just as bad at this one as I do the other one. So whether it's Japanese or North American Mario Kart, I still suck. Holy crap, I won. How the heck did that happen? So what about costs? Well, here are the two first games I picked up. I got Super Mario Kart and Super Mario World. This was about $15 Canadian compared to getting a Super Nintendo version is 20 to 25 bucks. Not that big of a difference in cost, but still that's 5-10 bucks. When it came to Mario Kart, this was $16 Canadian. Whereas if you wanted to get the North American version, you're looking at anywhere between $35 to $50 Canadian to get Mario Kart for the SNES. So yeah, so like I said, there's still Japanese text in the games, but like Mario Kart, you can totally get by that and not even worry about it. And even better, if you can read Japanese, you are going to save a lot of money if you stick with the Famicom. All right, let's check out Super Mario World. So there's your Japanese intros, but again, it's Super Mario. Most people know how to do this game. So if you have any familiarity, you don't need to read that. And in fact, I remember as a kid ignoring that anyway. And again, all the text on the screen appears to be in English. So the last game I picked up was Super Mario All-Stars, or in Japan, it's called Super Mario Collection. And the reason I wanted to pick this one up was because Super Mario 2 in North America was actually a game, and I'm going to butcher the saying of this, called Yumi Kojo Doki Doki Panic. I'm pretty sure I butchered that. In Japan, Super Mario 2 was the game that was released with this collection called the Lost Levels. They deemed it too difficult for North American audiences. So that's why we got Super Mario 2 as it was. The Super Mario 2 was apparently later released in Japan as Super Mario USA. I want to know, does this actually have all of those games on it too? Is it just the same collection with different titles? So let's find out. So there you go. Even Super Mario Collection is written in English for English users, I guess. And again, even the titles are written in English. So we've got Super Mario, and then Super Mario 2 for Japan, which in the North American one, this is the Lost Levels. And there's Super Mario USA with actually the two dates, 88 for the North American version, and 92, I believe, is when Super Mario USA came out in Japan. And then we got our Super Mario 3. And yeah, so it contains the same games, just with the different imaging, which was from the original Famicom labels. So let's just see how much Japanese is in the game. So even the text on the screen is still English. I'm going to probably die real quick because I am what you call terrible at video games. I love them, but I suck at them. Okay, so yeah, look at that. It's the same thing. So there you have it. I love this thing. I don't know why. You can totally use a Japanese Super Famicom in North America. Power adapter, cartridge adapter thing, and you are off to the races. And it might be cheaper to learn Japanese than to collect some of the North American titles. The Japanese versions of Earthbound and Chrono Trigger, which both of those games are worth, like, I think Earthbound is like 500 plus and Chrono Trigger's like 300 plus. You could get both of those shipped to your door in Japanese for like $60. It's like you can get both for like 1/10 the cost of Earthbound. I think I might check out some of these learn to read Japanese videos on YouTube. Totally free, save some cash. Come the summer, I think I'm going to try and retrobrite this, just to bring back some of the original color. As you can see, it is pretty yellowed. But that's it for this video. If you like this kind of content, please like, subscribe, leave a comment below. Would love to hear from you. Tell me where you're watching this from. I've got well over 1,000 subscribers now, and I can't believe that there is 1,000 people subscribing and watching stuff that I make. Absolutely fantastic, and thanks for all the support. And we'll see you in the next one. Bye.